Oh, well, hello, my wonderful, beautiful broskies and broscas of the Dark Shadow Maverick Nation. I am the Dark Shadow, the Maverick, the Dark Shadow Maverick. And now it is time for the second part of our little schedule here thing. How things are gonna kind of be going. Our second thing being that of what if Izuku was the Lagiacrus? So basically, let me take a look. Yep. Yep. 4 parts. So this will be what if Izuku was the Lagiacrus part 5. And the last part, we basically left off with Izuku using some Metal Gear Solid type technology, kind of linked up with him and GLaDOS being linked together. So instead of Snake and Otacon, it's Izuku and GLaDOS, which I believe in the last part they turned good. And in turning GLaDOS good, they also turned the turrets good. So, yeah. Well, any of the remaining turrets, that is. And also, these remaining turrets, the ones that couldn't sing, they can sing now. And the ones that currently could sing, they can still sing. In fact, both the ones that couldn't sing before and the ones that could already sing have actually gotten better at singing. To the point at which they're like ridiculously good at it. And on the whole fact of, what's happening right now, well, as we go through all the whole team, the turrets, like I said, they're really good at singing. And they're also, increased, with their shooting. It shoot down, shit like crazy. And GLaDOS has done some improvements for, anything and everything she's hooked up to. And, she's also a very good help for, every single member on board their new base, underwater base. Which is pretty much the currently best base they could have asked for. The only thing that, is really bothering anyone else besides Izuku and GLaDOS is the whole presence of Doug Ratman. Where the hell is he gone? What is his deal? Oh, and the whole deal with the deadly neurotoxin. Oh, well, that's actually been put away for further use in the future, just in case things get really bad. Oh, and also, the same place where the deadly neurotoxin is now located is also where the phazon energy and, the leftover, some leftover, plasma from dead X-parasites has also been put, several containers, some with phazon energy, some with, plasma from dead X parasites are in other containers, and in other containers would be like oh shit, I think I forgot. Damn it. Basically, you get the gist. We have the deadly neurotoxin. So basically, containers of the deadly neurotoxin, containers of phazon energy, and containers of like plasma of dead X parasites. So yeah, basically dead X parasite plasma. So basically, yeah, that's a thing. And it's all been pretty much sealed up and concealed within some certain lockdown rooms. Like certain like places. You know, kind of like the FNAF safe rooms. Places where you would put stuff that you wouldn't want anyone to know about. Or if you did want them to know about, at least let them know that this is where all that stuff is. And to not, like, access it unless you absolutely needed to. And currently the whole thing with everyone else besides Izuku right now, well, Minetta's current thing is he's basically learned how to turn his pop-off quirk into literal deadly blasts of said quirk and any type of mana that he's using at the time. Literally, he can turn any of the pop-offs into that type of mana. It's not that he's covering it with it. He's actually learned how to turn it into different types of mana. He can turn it into fireballs, shots of electricity, shots of, like, ice cube ball things, or, like, just, like, giant freaking rocks. Basically, like, a bunch of different types of elemental shit. And, like, Minetta's beginning to learn faster and faster. And, you know, he's just doing anything and everything that he can. And on the whole situation with Koda and Eri, well, Koda's main training is, like, the physical stuff and, you know, Kanabu training. You know, like the whole art of the Shigoki, learn how to wield that Kanabu. And, you know, the whole training with Eri is she got to learn how to be, like, if you ever, like, went up against, like, the best of, like, the Regenerators, like, a really tough one, she's got to be better than the best of the best of any normal Regenerator. She's got to be the best of the best beyond that. She's got to be beyond the best of the best. So, yeah. That's basically improvements from the team, and Bakugo's on, and what Bakugo is basically learning how to do is he's basically built up some endurance from, you know, being underground with Dirge all that time that they weren't aware of Hydra's situation, and from everything and, like, their mother, you know, like, the whole thing with Hydra's, Bakugo is basically learning how to basically become, I guess the best way you could have put it is, like, an explosion bender. Like, basically, like, Avatar logic, and say explosion bender. And that's basically what Bakugo is doing right now. So he's basically become an explosion bender for like each and every part of his body. And also like several parts at once. Basically, Eri is just trying to be the best that she can be and beyond when concerning the part of her which is regenerator based. And, well, basically all that physical training and all the Kanabu training for Koda, because he is a behemoth that, you know, acts like kind of half behemoth, half Shigoki. He acts very Shigoki-like whenever he becomes the behemoth. There's elements of the behemoth in there, but he does have a lot of attributes of the Shigoki in the way, like, how he wields the Kanabu. And behemoths don't really wield weapons, like man-made weapons. But Koda, that's how he stands out from other behemoths. He actually wields a weapon, being the weapon of the Shigoki, a Kanabu. Not just any Kanabu, a redonkulous Kanabu, like very, very, very strong Kanabu. And so there's a lot of training that needs to be done. A lot of training in both the way of the behemoth and the way of the Shigoki. Whenever it comes to Koda's training. And whenever it comes to the training of Mineta, he's basically got it down pat, like being able to turn his pop-off quirk into elemental attacks. But he can still, like, have it be able to stick to people. That's the thing. Even though it's an element, it can become elemental attacks. It can still stick to people. Yeah. So basically you could say that they're preparing their asses off for whatever trouble might come their way. And considering its turrets ablazing on the outside and inside of the Aperture Science building base that they have for themselves, basically any, like, Sea Emperor or Phantom Leviathan thing. Not Phantom, Ghost Leviathan. Basically, Sea Emperors or Ghost Leviathans. Any ones that want to come near the base. Like, the turrets are better than normal turrets. They're, like, a lot better than normal ones. And so, it's, like, a pretty damn good base. The only problem that the others seem to have is the whole Doug Ratman thing. But, you know, Doug Ratman isn't being inherently, you know, an asshole. He's just someone who's there. However, Izuku, on the other hand, Izuku with, you know, communicating with GLaDOS via certain, like, I guess you could say, Metal Gear Solid type technology. You know, the, like, little eye thing that allows him to talk with people. He's literally using to contact GLaDOS. The way, like, Snake would contact, like, Otacon or the Colonel. Or, like, other people. You know, Snake's thing that he does. So, yeah. He has one, but instead of looking like an eye patch, it looks like a Dragon Ball Z Scouter. And before anybody asks in the comments section, It's basically Vegeta's scouter is the design of what Izuku is using in order to talk to people. Like, interact with them. But he can also do the same thing with GLaDOS. So basically, yeah. Instead of looking like an eye patch, it looks like Vegeta's scouter from like back in the Saiyan saga. So, yeah. There's that. There is indeed that. And basically, Izuku's like wandering all throughout like the entire base, because he does now indeed realize, that there is a lot of, area, like a lot of space in which like none of them have really like scouted out yet, like explored. They've just really been, going for the essentials, like finding themselves their own rooms, like finding like bathroom areas, finding like just the essentials, like if they want to survive, like just the essentials, and even their like bridge area, like the area where GLaDOS is, where everybody just like does their own thing, and they kind of have like their own little bridge area, like the Star Trek. Like the Enterprise has its own area called the bridge. Basically, the area where GLaDOS is basically the equivalent to the Star Trek's bridge. There's even like several machines in the area that kind of make sounds that are ridiculously similar to that of the sounds made at the bridge. Like eerily similar. So yeah. Basically, the more and more Izuku goes through and through, the more and more he's finding areas that they haven't really, like him and others haven't really, seen. And eventually, he bumps into somebody. And, eventually he just is like, wait, who the hell are you? And the person, originally, like, their speech is very garbled up, and, like, it's kind of difficult to understand. So, Izuku's basically like, dude, calm the frick down. I am a human, and the machines have become good. Because of me and my friends, the machines are no longer trying to kill us. The machines are good now. No hostilities. That is, unless you yourself are trying to be hostile. Unless that, no hostilities. Basically, that's what Izuku's trying to explain. Basically, the person's just like, I am Doug. And Izuku's like, Doug? You mean Doug Ratman? And the person's just like, Rats, man? Like, they're confused, like, Ratman? And the person basically just gets back up onto, two legs. Basically, they just, like, dust off. And they're just like, I'm a scientist. Are we still at Aperture? And Izuku's like, dude, you gotta be filled in. I'm sure you may have some hostile feelings towards GLaDOS at first, but soon you will indeed see that things have changed, and she'll even be a good help on, getting you to figure out how much has changed and, well, how to basically better integrate into a little bit of a new society that's been made for us. Like anyone that's survived, at least. And even all the recent developments in just people in general. I'm sure you don't even know what a quirk is. Doug. And Doug Ratman, here, like Mr. Doug Ratman. Yes, indeed, this is Doug Ratman. Izuku just met, bumped into. And, Doug is just like, he's like going through everything that Izuku is saying. And so basically, Izuku just points to the little eye device. Basically looks like Vegeta's scouter from like the Saiyan saga of Dragon Ball Z. And, he tells Doug Ratman about basically everything and how it all works. And he even tells him about quirks and how they were formed and what exactly the quirks of everyone on the ship are. And maybe, just possibly, due to some certain things, maybe Doug himself might have actually developed a quirk. And, they basically get to a, area that isn't as, like a, how do you say it, claustrophobic, as the area where he found Doug Ratman. They basically go for a more spacious area, like they find a bathroom. The bathroom does seem to be a lot bigger than the area where he found Doug Ratman. Basically, he just gives him the code name Ratman, because that's what the people that have, heard rumors about him have been calling him, Doug Ratman. So, he just gives him the code name Ratman. And Doug is like, well, if that's how things have been going, and really, I've kind of been, out of touch with society and everything. And basically, well, Doug Ratman basically realizing that he's been out of touch with society for so damn long, he doesn't really have that much say in the matter. So, he's just like, okay. And plus, he actually thinks there's a little bit of a spark to the nickname. Little code name that he's been given. So, he's just like, sure, Ratman. It sounds okay. And, well, eventually, GLaDOS actually does end up scanning Doug Ratman and ends up figuring out that he does have a quirk. He developed one not too long ago, around the time, actually, that Izuku became the Lagiacrus and scared the ever-living shit out of her, back whenever she was evil. GLaDOS. That was around the time that Doug Ratman developed his quirk. And this quirk is called Ratman. That's basically the nickname the quirk itself was given. So basically, his code name is Ratman, and the name of his quirk is Ratman. But, people are indeed, it is indeed said that they can just call him Doug if they want. They can call him his code name, or they can call him his real name. It doesn't matter. It's just a thing that can be said. That it doesn't really matter, if you do or you don't do. It's just a thing. It's just how it goes, how it be. Doug, he realizes they've basically colonized the shit out of the Aperture Science labs. They basically just made it their own place, and Izuku's basically become the boss. So he just realizes he really has no say in the matter, and it's just like, well, if this kid's been able to do so much with his friends, and says, like, he's been going through so much, like, why the hell not? Why the hell not go through the ride? And, he's like, Doug can even be some help. Like, Izuku even tells Doug, like, he could even be helpful for these guys, like, a helpful adult that can help with things that them being more, like, children, like, would probably not be able to, be as easy to help with. So, like, Doug Ratman does indeed serve a purpose. He's, like, the help. Kind of like how the people like Star Trek, the Enterprise, they had their own help. And basically, the quirk that Doug has, Ratman, basically enhances him with, like, rat powers. Like, he's got, like, enhanced rat abilities. It's very weird, but it indeed does help in some situations. Like, Doug realizes his quirk isn't exactly the best, but it's not bad, it's just more or less mediocre. Whenever considered, like, other quirks. But, it could still be used to be helpful. And, Doug doesn't need finally ask the $1,000,000 question to Izuku. What indeed was he doing? I mean, he did indeed look surprised, so that basically gives Doug the idea that he wasn't looking for him, unlike so many others. He wasn't purposely looking for him. He was looking for something or someone else. Someone or something else. He wasn't looking for him. Definitely not. And Izuku's like, Doug, let's say we could add Mind Reader to the list of quirks. Because I was not looking for you, actually. Actually, with the help of GLaDOS, I was looking, I guess you could say I was indeed looking for certain, certain pests. You see this? Phazon energy and X-Parasite stuff? And Doug does indeed inspect both things, both canisters, and he sees, like, stuff as he's, like, inspecting everything. And, he basically is now beginning to understand why Izuku was out there. Izuku even telling him that there were certain areas, like the area that he was going through whenever he found him, that they hadn't even explored yet, certain areas of the Aperture Science building. And, Doug is even like, I can actually help you, like, spread out and help with the exploration of this building. Because, I've worked here for so long, I can help. And, Izuku's just like, that's why you are the help. Like, multi-purpose, multifaceted, like, abilities beyond just a quirk. You are actual, like, intel, actual stuff, like, good stuff, like, beyond just, like, machines that can tell us stuff. Now we got, like, other humans that can tell us stuff. Or just a human. But hey, one's, like, better than none. And well, Doug would indeed feel good, being, like, it may not be what he used to have, but it is indeed nice to know that he at least has some, like, it's not nearly as bad as it used to be, basically. And he even goes all the way to volunteer to help Izuku with the old exploration and, like, hunting down of, like, Dark Samus and the SAX. Samus Aran X. And, well, Izuku's just like, well, there's actually a little bit of something that, I was waiting to tell, like, us, after it had been a while. After several, exhibitions out in the midst of the deep, deep blue, I actually found several different packages of several different weaponry. And, well, I believe that this could indeed be helpful. This, my friend, is indeed what I believe to be called, or is codenamed, the fusion suit. A sort of pinkish mix of also blue, like a pink and a blue type suit. It is dubbed the fusion suit. And I believe that you could indeed use it, and the several assets that come with it, you could indeed be a good help. Now, I do indeed you will believe that that you will have noticed that several of the different areas here have already been expanded upon, basically made bigger. And, Doug is like, yeah, I did notice that. What's the occasion? And Izuku would just be like, well, the occasion, my friend. The occasion is the fact that my quirk makes me freaking enormous. And, well, we can't exactly say much less about a certain Coda, just pointing to Coda. His quirk makes him very big as well, but not nearly as big as me. Like, it gets redonkulous how big I can get. So that's the change in the size. Though I do indeed believe we're going to have to scout out for more of the areas of this entire new base of ours. We need to find every which area and find a way to make it more accommodatable for every single member of our team. No man left behind. No man left in the dark. No woman left behind. No woman left in the dark. In other words, we need to fix this place until everyone is accommodated for and accounted for. And, Doug Ratman will just be like, well then, let's, get rid of these Samuses and let's get to working on this base. Because, truly no but rest for the... I almost went into Elmer Fudd mode. Truly no rest for the wicked. So basically, there would be a team of 3. There would be Izuku, Bakugo, and Doug Ratman, and a second team, Mineta, Kota, and Eri. And they would go through the different areas, and they would stop several times to wait and tell if they could hear for any footsteps. Tell if they needed to go up or down. And Izuku wouldn't admit that that was a little bit of an error that he had made. He didn't check fully. He forgot to listen for footsteps. He was too enthralled with the new technology that he was prohibited to. You know, the whole communication system. Basically, the entire thing, they would come across certain labs that would basically, from the looks of it, would be labs that would have been made for the sole purpose of mass producing the deadly neurotoxin. And, well, they would basically look if they were blown up by someone who definitely looked like the purpose of why they were blowing everything up is basically to release the deadly neurotoxin every freaking where. Basically, Bakugo's entire wear would basically be his hero suit and cannon, but basically modified to where it could protect him from anything like the deadly neurotoxin. And basically, Doug Ratman has Samus's Metroid fusion suit on, so he's protected from the deadly neurotoxin. And Izuku, well, his whole thing is that he has that shit that Snake has on in the very opening sequence of Metal Gear Solid 1, whenever he's coming out of the water. So he basically has his own suit. So he's protected from the deadly neurotoxin. And the suit, as Snake mentions in one of the things whenever he's talking to people, he mentions it's skin tight, or one of the other people mentions that it's skin tight. So yeah, basically, no shit, you would be protected from the deadly neurotoxin. And they would basically go through the entire area as, they'd finally get past all of the deadly neurotoxin, and, basically a door would close behind them, and the moment that they would look basically back forward from they would have looked at the door, and then they would turn around again to face the front, and then they would see the one responsible for all of the releasing of the deadly neurotoxin. Exploding all of the different, tankers of, filled with deadly neurotoxin. Dark Samus. And basically, Doug Ratman hasn't had much experience with using, Samus's equipment. So, anytime he tries to do something, it's a constant misfire. He isn't, and he also hasn't had the Chozo training, so he's, constantly getting smacked around by Dark Samus. Just toying with the man. He just now got out of that mental screwy state that he was in while he was going through all the shit, just cruising around in a mentally unstable stupor. And so this is not doing much wonders for his mental health. And just as Dark Samus is about to knock him out completely by doing one of those, like, Chozo barrel roll things, like, go straight up, like, basically Samus's up B, the screw attack. Screw attack! Yeah, basically, Basically, Bakugo would try to, just send several explosions. And, Dark Samus would just be screwing with Bakugo, basically the equivalent of taunting him by dodging every single explosion he would throw. That's until Izuku would give the signal. He would basically become big, becoming Lagiacrus, but not to attack Dark Samus, but to instead trap it. Basically, considering Dark Samus an it instead of a her or a he. Basically, Dark Samus would be trapped because the entire body of the Lagiacrus, this area that they would have found Dark Samus in, wasn't all that big. So, yeah, basically Dark Samus would be trapped. And then Bakugo would just do this. He would just like what Hydrus does in, like, Shadow of the Colossus, surround his entire body in explosions. And they would be like howitzer impact level explosions. And he would just jump off of Izuku and, like, slam straight into Dark Samus as Dark Samus would pull off a Chozo freaking screw attack, basically knocking Dark Samus back into Izuku, and Izuku would just let off an electric charge, and basically that would be the end of Dark Samus, because Dark Samus would be pretty much immobile. Izuku would return to normal, pick up Dark Samus by, like, the helmet, like, pretty much the neck area, and just look straight into the eyes. But he would not have any fear going through him. Because the next thing that would happen is, well, he'd basically be like, Doug. And Doug Ratman would be like, yes, Izuku. Activate the quirk. You remember how to activate it, right? And Doug would, like, shake his head and, like, nod his head. And Izuku would be like, well then, get ready. 3, 2, 1, go! And, like, throw Dark Samus towards Doug. Doug would tackle Dark Samus to the ground and activate the rat, like, amplification quirk and just tear into Dark Samus until basically Dark Samus went limp and died. So yeah, basically Bakugo and Izuku basically just going at Dark Samus until it was weak enough for Doug to just tear into, basically ending up killing Dark Samus. Well, that whole thing. But that's the thing. Dark Samus may be pretty much dead, but there's the SAX that they gotta worry about now. Or do they? Survey says not so much. Because basically Dark Samus and the SAX, they didn't really want to get into a confrontation with one another. So they went separate ways. They went the opposite way of one another. So basically the SAX is headed towards everybody. But basically, seeing as Ares a regenerator, basically, Like, Coda basically bait and switched the SAX to charge into him, turned like into the behemoth using his quirk, and grab his little Kanabu, smack the SAX over to one of the little like like airlock places, and Eri would be over there, and no matter how many times the SAX would blast her, because the SAX, not being completely stupid, wouldn't he realize that Eri would have her hands and arms at the basic handle of the airlock, and so trying to several times blast her in the head. But that's a problem. Kinda can't kill Eri, so just ends up getting the entire door opened, and now the SAX is just on the outside, and there's several Sea Emperors and several Ghost Leviathans out there, and they eat the SAX alive. And so yeah, basically that's 2 threats down. And they basically mentally stabilized the Ratman into being part of their team, being the help. Basically, minimal amount of damage, because really, Dark Samus was really just playing around with, Doug Ratman and Bakugo. Really wasn't actually hitting them hard. Just smacking them silly, slapping them silly, stop smacking yourself, stop smacking yourself, stop smacking yourself, stop smacking yourself. Just being a bitch. And, basically, any sort of explosive damage, or, screw attack damage that could have been done to the Lagiacrus, seriously, guys, you really think that's going to actually hurt Izuku? And Doug Ratman, the only damage that was really done to him was, possible mental state damage. But, after, the relief of finally, we won, guys, we won! That would basically be enough to push Doug Ratman back onto the edge, and all the way over to the good side of the edge, to where, safe and secure mental faculties, no longer at pretty much any risk of being mentally effed with by Dark Samus. Since, technically, basically, yeah, no thanks. And, the SAX kinda, you can't exactly kill Regenerators all that good unless you, kill everything that they are in one go. And that really wasn't working, only hitting the head. It's not like Thanos, you just can't go for the head and that be the end solution. And so, yeah. Plus, the area where the Aperture Science Base is, that's basically sunken underwater, has a lot of Sea Emperors and Ghost Leviathans swimming around. So, yeah. Plus, besides that, you got freaking sentries that know how to sing very well. However, just because their base is underwater doesn't mean they aren't going to go up to the surface occasionally. Because, well, you can't just be down there all the time. There can indeed be some stuff to do on the surface. Until they get everything pretty much fortified perfectly, they're still going to have some trips to do on the surface. So they gotta wait until everything is basically made perfect for the time being. Until they can safely say that they're gonna, be pretty much stuck on the base. So, pretty much now it's just sometimes go to the surface, but most of the time be in the underwater base. However, there's this one time Izuku is coming up to the surface, basically just to, well, let's just say he was looking out the window and he saw a big shadow over top of the water, and he was wondering what the hell that big shadow is. So he gets all the way to the surface and he realizes that big shadow was being made by a huge ass ship. And technically, as he begins to look at more and more of it, he begins to realize it's not just any regular ship that's really, really freaking big. It's a pirate ship. And with the look of the flag, like flags, he's beginning to realize, now it's not the original one, because the original one is long dead. This one has got to be like JS the 80th or something. Like, they know it's not the current one. I mean, not, basically, they know it's not the original JS, but like, Izuku knows it's not the original JS, because that can't be possible. But they do, like, Izuku does indeed know from the look of, like, the flags, it's got to at least be a member of the JS. And what I mean whenever I say JS, I mean Jack Sparrow. Yes. It's like an entire lineage of Jack Sparrows. It's kind of like, how you have King Henry VIII. Like, how many King Henrys are there in order to get, like, King Henry VIII? It's kind of like that deal. You kind of have so many different Jack Sparrows. And so basically, it's like the Jack Sparrow of this day. Of the day in which this story takes place. It's this story's Jack Sparrow, basically. And, Doug has a quirk, like Doug Ratman has a quirk that gives him rat powers. Which basically just allowed him to slash straight into Dark Samus. And so, basically, the quirk of this Jack Sparrow is basically, whenever the quirk is activated, technically it's only ever activated whenever, like, if you've ever heard of, like, the word comeback, like, in the term of, like, sports or battles to the death, like, it looks like one side is losing, but then they start, like, winning, and basically they win, even though it looked like they were going to lose. Basically, like, a comeback. That's basically how his quirk works. This Jack Sparrow. Like, if it ever looks like he's going to, like, get, like, decimated, like he's going to lose, and he is losing, his quirk will, like, help him increase whatever, like, stat he needs to increase in order to help his odds of winning the fight. Now, it's like a dice roll. It won't work every time, but the majority of the time, the stats will increase at a very large margin. Now, whether it's large enough to help him win is also a dice roll within itself. It's a very dice rolly quirk. And it's called what should I call it? Oh, I could just call it Sparrow. Yeah, basically, that's what his quirk is called. Sparrow. Because they're all like sparrows, like, Sparrow the insert number here. So basically, that's the name of the quirk, Sparrow. And so basically, that's what it does, but it's a very dice rolly quirk as to whether these certain things will work or not. And how they'll work. And that's basically like whenever Izuku, like, basically tries to send a message over to the ships, like, basically the lookout for the ship. Basically does like a super punch and punches the message, like, with a lot of force all the way over to, and like at the last few seconds, like, it begins to lose traction so that it falls gently over to where the lookout is. And so the lookout finds the message, and basically he finds the captain, and it's like, well, it is indeed a message for the captain. It's basically Captain Jack Sparrow, the insert number here. I'm basically gonna say that. I'm gonna say, like, insert number here, because I don't know how many numbers that would be. I mean, you would have to factor in life expectancy for, like, how many Jack Sparrows there would be. So yeah, I'm putting Pirates of the Caribbean into this. Like the movies. Like with Johnny Depp. So yeah. And the quirk the captain has is called Sparrow. And it's basically a very, Dungeons and Dragons type, like, very, dice rolly type quirk. But, most of the time it helps more than it doesn't help. Most of the time. Actually, it usually helps more than it doesn't help, so much that this certain Jack Sparrow is known to be the best Jack Sparrow of them all. Jack Sparrow, insert number here, is the best of them. At least that's what people that have, like, heard the tales, and even, people that have seen him in person and know what he's like, those are the people you'll hear really tall tales from. Like, tales that will make you, like, go, holy shit, this guy's awesome. Like this Jack Sparrow, the insert number here. And so, yeah. And the fact that he even has a quirk that makes him even more awesome than he already is. That one? Yeah. Basically, it's just a sign you don't mess with this guy and his crew. It's basically the only reason why this, captain's, like, entire thing is so close to the base in terms of, like, above water, because literally Izuku could see it from outside his window, like, one of the windows, he could see it from outside one of the windows, at least the shadow of the bottom of it. Because, that's kind of how water works. Basically, You know, Izuku does indeed get the chance to meet the captain. And, well, they do indeed become friends. And they become friends so much that the captain actually says he wants to meet his own crew. And Izuku informs about the whole fact that they actually have an underwater base, and that it's actually one of the Aperture Science buildings. However, if they ever want to be allies, he has no problem with that. And I think that's where I'm gonna leave things off. On the analysis because the Dark Side of Maverick. So you out of here. You boys like, favorite, subscribe, click that little bell, leave something in the comment section. Bouncing it's Quidditch, Quidditch, Quidditch. Yeet, no, yeet. And Mr. Friggin' Erection.